Well, good afternoon. I almost said good morning. It is 12:10. We're starting our recording here on April. I almost said March, April 3rd, 2024. We hope you had a great Easter season, all of you. And so we're excited to do our Series Writer update. I will be leaving in a week from today. So, actually, no, I'm sorry. I will be in Italy a week from, I'll be in London in a week from today. I'm leaving in 6 days. It's coming quick. I'm
Yeah,
starting to freak out.
it's
In
Easter
6 days from now, I leave for our Serious Writer tour stop in Italy. I am going to London. I'm going to Paris. I'm going to Annecy, France, all first, and the Alps. I'm going to be in the Italian Alps for a day and a half, meeting my foreign exchange students' family. And then I'm going
Yay!
to Tuscany for the Serious Writer tour. And then I'm leaving to go to Athens after that. So it's going to be great. I'm excited. I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks. I'll miss 3 of these with you guys. Bethany is going to be doing some specific teachings. I don't know that I'll be able to get material back for you for teachings. We're going to try. I'm going to try to record some stuff and send it back, but it's going to be difficult.
I'm not planning on it.
Yeah. We're not going to guarantee there will be bonus material if we can get anything back because of the internet, you never know. But part of that, I may go to the famous Parisian haunt of authors like Voltaire and others, where they have been writing for since the 1600s, the oldest cafe in Paris where the writers all went and hung out. Guys like Hemingway and Thomas Jefferson. So I have to book the ticket in advance, but it sounds like something that a writer should do. And so I'm going to try to get in there. But yeah, so it's what I'll be doing. I'll be writing in each location. So that's my goal. I'm going to write I've been working on a novel. So I'm going to write at least a chapter in each location. That's my goal. So,
I got to do a paragraph, like 3 paragraphs in Florence when we were there last year. So I'm like, it's just so fun to be able to say part of this was written, in this setting. And
it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So, but I digress. So that's what's going to be happening. Bethany will have some teachings for you. She is not going with me. So it works out because her husband, who would have had to watch the kids, is gone. But my wife will be there, and Johnny Alexander will be there with us in teaching. So we'll have some fun. You can always go on a Serious Writer tour. Just let us know if you're interested in the future. And I'm excited about it. But let me tell you about my dilemma that I'm having.
Here.
I have an author who is a established author, successful. I would say middle of the road success, not like universal J.K. Rowling success, but decent success in the CBA market. And we continue to get contracts at the publishers that this author's working with 2 different publishers, one fiction, one nonfiction, which is great. But he got a new idea. So he brought on a co-author who happens to be his son. And so they had a couple ideas. We shipped them out to the current publishers and other publishers. Here's the problem. Of the 2 books, they're both being looked at. And now the current publisher of one book wants one of the books. The current publisher of another series wants that same book. And the current publisher of another new publisher wants the other book, but wants it changed enough that it'll probably compete with the current book that the other 2 want. So now I have a problem. I have, and one contract is like a really decent, good contract. So it's like, So this is the problem that you have when you send out stuff and you send it to people and everybody gets interested. You can create a problem for yourself, especially if you send 2 books out. The books were originally dissimilar enough, but the conversation I had with these authors when I sent them out is, listen, the books we're selling right now are not the books we're submitting. You just need to know everybody's asking for a different version of what we submit based on what they want. Sure enough, that's what they came back and said. All these publishers said, we like it, but we want to go this direction. This is a nonfiction project. Every single publisher wanted it tweaked. The problem is the tweaks all then lined up. So the one publisher wanted a tweak to go from a parent perspective to a youth perspective. The other one wanted it to be more of a question format. And then the new publisher wanted it to be a question format and a youth perspective. So the issue is they will be competitive. They will be the same book, maybe geared toward different age levels. So I just found this out last night. And now I have to tell my authors, we have to either tweak the projects to be different enough, or the 2 projects we were hoping we could sell, we just come in one project and we can only sell to one publisher. But last night, one of the publishers told me, we want this. I need to get you a firm answer. but we already got a contract offer from another publisher. So now I'm kind of like stuck. And
going
they
to the
weren't the
auction?
same project. What's that?
Are you starting an auction?
No, I mean, because they want them. The problem is they want them dissimilar enough, but not too dissimilar that they're not competitive. So it's not the same book, but they will be. We won't be able to do both. Like it'll trip a competition clause. I don't think I can get the competition clause enough away that they'll be different enough. I'm going to try. That's this. I like the competition clause negotiations. I'm going to try. But so that's where, like, as you're an author, you got to recognize, like, people do this. I see this a lot. Like, let's just send all my stuff out and I'll take whatever contracts. The problem is that competition clause is such a problem in the process, because if you write a book and then try to sell another book to a different publisher and it's too similar, they're going to come after you if the book is successful. You may hear nothing if the book's not successful because there's just no money to get. There's no reason to get their attorneys involved. If it's successful, they're going to come take all your money and they're going to sue you and take all your money and say it belongs to them. And they'll give you basically the royalty portion of which you should have gotten, which will be a tiny little bit. It'll be devastating. So that's one of the things I've been talking to Bethany about, is she's been, working with clients, is like, you got to really pay attention to that competition clause. It's never an issue. And I've seen a lot of authors out there who have sold the same book over and over again. And they're like, well, I've gotten away with it. It's not a big deal, because they weren't selling books.
It's
The
okay
moment you
until it
start
isn't.
making money, everything changes. And so I would say, as an author, protect yourself. Do not sell the same book twice. Do not sell a similar book twice. They don't want anything close. And the problem with these projects is, even though the one may change it to an adult project written to adults of like young adults, the format is still the same questions. So when we do a young adult version, it'll be a competition because it's the same questions. Although it's a different audience, they'll feel it's too similar because it's for the answers for parents of young adults. It would, if the same publisher wanted the same book, it wouldn't be a problem because it's not really competing with their book. It's a be an extension of it. The issue I'm having is not that that's not the problem. That would be a great problem. The issue is, it's three different publishers wanting three different versions of two different projects that all end up being too close the way they've tweaked them. And we tried to be very careful about navigating that when I sent them out, because I didn't want them to compete. I was like, we got to be very careful, guys. I don't want these to compete. Yet when the publishers said, this is what we want, they all want this pretty much the same thing. That's the hard thing. So just be aware that can happen. So as you are pitching projects, you have to think through what happens. I mean, this is a good problem to have. Like, we're contracts,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
you said contract, 5 figures. It's a nice contract for the one. So if nothing else, we'll take that contract and just forget about the others. But it's still a problem. So
I've got a hypothetical for you, but I did see something. Okay, so let's go to the question we've got in the chat. How do you turn down two of the publishers without causing future issues with them?
very gently. For the author, it's not as big of a deal, right? For an agent, it's a problem. I've sent them books that they want. I do know that the caliber of the publishers, when it comes to the amount of money they'll pay, is significantly different. And that's probably where we will go. Like, the one publisher is going to offer probably double to triple the amount of money as the other one. So when it comes down to what contract we will take, probably the one I already have as a contract, and not the one that, may come. They just don't offer the same amount of money. But
is that what you focus on when you turn down the other publisher? Like, hey, it's not you. It's just this offer was
it's not you, it's me.
This offer is too good.
It's not you, it's me. Yeah. It's not you, it's the offer, right?
Yeah.
And they know they can't offer what they can't offer. Luckily, the one offer is high enough that, and I've already negotiated even higher. So I don't feel like I want to take it and go try to squeeze out more money, because they've already come up 20% on the offer. I think I'm kind of at the top of them coming up. And they gave us a lot of time to write it. So, and then they're going to turn around and publish it within a year. So it's like, everything that I want, boom, boom, boom. So the contract's good, but like, you just got to know what you're trying to get out of the deal.
That's the key thing. Is it's not always about the advance. There's other things to think about when it comes to the contract, like you just said.
And here's the thing: the contract is going to be The contract offered is 3 different payments: payment on signing of the contract, 1/3, 1/3 on turning in the manuscript. Now you need to know this. We talk about this a lot. The turned in approved manuscript is not when you turn it in. It's when you turn it in, their editors go up, look at it, give it back to you, you edit it. And when they finally get done with it and they like and it's a publishable book, and then the senior editor and the VP or the president have signed off on it, that they're ready to print it. That is an approved manuscript. That is much, that it takes a lot of time. That could be months from when you turn in a manuscript. That's when a payment gets issued. And then it's like 45, 90 days, whatever, depending on the publisher. So it's a while before you get that second payment. Third payment is on the release of the book. So here's how you think this through as an author. And this doesn't matter if it's, 4-figure, 5-figure, 3-figure deal. It doesn't really matter. I think that if you get a similar offer, if you get an offer that's a lot less money, but they're going to publish it sooner and you're going to be able to get into that money faster and get paid faster, that may be better than hey, we're going to do a 2027 release. Because here's what can happen in the meantime. This happens a lot. The book gets dropped because editors lose their jobs and nobody cares. Or the book gets pushed and they're like, we've had some issues. Now we're pushing to 28. So you may make double the money, but it may take you forever to actually realize that money and release that book. And you may have moved on to other projects.
I mean, the publisher could no longer exist.
Yeah. And that happens a lot where publishers go to business. And oftentimes when a publisher gets bought, we had this happen. I had this happen personally. I had a book that was getting published and the publisher got bought. So they dropped the book and they dropped a bunch of books. Like they dropped 3 of my clients' books at the exact same time. They dropped a bunch of my friends' books at the same time. They cleaned house because the new publisher wanted to do their own thing. So you have to recognize that is a thing. So a publisher is going to give us a deal and then publish it within a year means my author's getting paid 3 times within the next year. If they're not going to do it to 2027, 2026, my author's going to get paid 3 times in the next 2 to 3 years. That's a significantly different endeavor. Plus, every other publisher that wants to acquire my author's books are not going to publish a book by that author generally within 6 months before or after the release of that book. So right now, the chance of me selling another book that fast and getting it to market within, 18 months, it's going to be, that's a hard scenario to make happen. The chance of me selling other books for this author and having another release in 2027 is significant based on their publishing history. So now I'm just taking a window far out in the future that my author can't publish a book in, instead of taking a window that we don't have a book releasing in. And so you have to take that in account. How much is that worth? Is that worth 50% less, advance? Is it worth 30% less advance? So those are, when thinking contracts, sometimes people just think you take the most money. You don't always take the most money. You take the best opportunity for yourself. I can't help my author build platform on a book that is 2027. They have to build platform on their own because they don't have a book. So this author already has platform, is one of the reasons why they're getting the deal. But if this is a debut, you don't have a product to sell for 3 years, 2 years. So it's really, it's that whole adage we talk about, well, I can't build a platform without a book, right? So, and you need platform to sell the book. It's the conundrum. And so part of it is if you can get the book out, get money, it's a good deal, and you can start selling that book and building platform, that may be worth more to you in the long run than a few extra hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on your situation in life.
All right. So I've got a hypothetical. Let me throw at you.
Yep.
How long let's say someone has a book, whether they've negotiated it through an agent or done it themselves. That's not here nor there. But the publisher has the first right of refusal or the first option for the next book. So, but there's no timeline given in the contract for how long they can choose to tell you yes or no on whether or not they're going to take that. What can you do? Can you walk us through what it looks like to submit? That's my question. Can you walk us through?
Don't sign the contract until you negotiate it.
No, walk us through okay, you've already got a book out. You want to do a second book, but the publisher has to refuse it first. What does it look like for the author or / agent to do when there's no time frame?
This is a big one. So competition clauses are a major issue the one thing I always take the time to read, reread, and make sure my author is clear on what that means. The option is the other one. I just try to get rid of them. I hate the options. I see why agents hate the options. You think as an author it protects you. It doesn't protect you. It protects the publisher. It's all about the publisher. If your book sells, they're going to offer you another contract. Mm-hmm. So an option is, unless the option has an expiration to it, stated in the contract, it has no expiration. It is for the life of the contract. Some contracts that I have seen are in perpetuity for the rest of all time, infinite, which means the option's infinite. If the contract is for the life and copyright of the book, it's 50 to 75 years, depending on what they do. If they can get extended to 90 years, 90 years, so 99 years. So that means the option's in effect the entire time that that book exists. So if you, say I'm 44. So if I got 30 more years of writing left in me, that option's still in effect for 30 years. I have to give them my next book or every next book, depending on the option, for the rest of my writing life. That is not a good thing to be. And then if the option, what you're specifically asking is, if the option doesn't say how long I have to wait for the publisher to give me an answer,
right?
I just have to wait for an answer. And if I never get the answer, I'm stuck. Legally, they could come back. Legally, if I'm the next J.K. Rowling, and they could come back and say, well, we never opted off that book, so now you owe us $100 million. That's the problem. It needs to have a very clear in an option, a very definitive. The publisher has 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to respond to your submission of another book. There are a lot of small publishers I don't ever see that with. They just put an option in there to try to protect themselves so they don't miss out on something good. But then, those publishers become defunct, and then you're stuck in limbo. And if you become the next rich person and they still have the contract and you never got the rights back, technically they can come after you and they're going to win because you signed a contract. So that doesn't, it's not often that somebody who signed a contract with a small publisher becomes the next J.K. Rowling and getting sued. We would talk about all the time if it happened, but there's the potential that it could happen. And so you just need to be aware of that. And so options, contracts, option clauses, and competition clauses, biggest dangers, I think, for authors. And one of the reasons why I think people need agents, because if you mess those up, they can really mess you up. Here's another clause that people don't pay attention to. And I had to explicitly state this to my clients. If we sign the contract that we currently have of the three, the contract is very clearly states you may not write any other book until this one's done. Problem being, I got the 6 months on this book to finish it. The other contract that's been offered, if we can find a way to get that book to be a different book, they want the book by May or by end of May. The book's, farther along, that version of the book's farther along, which means they're legally breaking the other contract if they write that book and turn it in once they sign the bigger contract. But we don't have a contract in that book. It's still in that contract phase. So they're not legally allowed to write it. So it could cause them problems. It's hard to find those things out. But again, you got to realize that's the risk you're taking. You are not allowed to write any other books until the book you have contracted is turned in almost every contract. That's the case, especially at the big houses. It's always the case, the big houses. And so those are some things you got to be aware of for people who write multiple things. At the big houses, people write one book a year. That's the contract, or one book at a time. They don't want them to do anything else. They don't want them to write other books. They don't want them to write another genre. They don't want that. That's not the way the publishing industry has been for a long time. So that's the way the contracts are still set up. And you don't really, unless you're really famous and rich and have sold a lot of books, you don't really get to change those specific clauses when it comes to like writing another book.
Interesting.
Did I answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And it made me think of something another agent was talking about with reversions being built into the contracts to where certain rights revert if the publisher doesn't exercise them within that amount of time, like 18 months.
Yeah, it's called a sunset clause. You might want to type that for him. Sunset clause. You want a sunset clause. It's not, I don't know that's not the legal definition, but that's what it is. It's a sunset clause. you want to put clauses in your contract where if the publisher doesn't exercise something, you can go ahead and do it. Like a sunset clause might be if the publisher does not put a version of an audiobook version of the book out within 18 months from the release of the book, then the rights revert back to author.
Right.
Or if the publisher hasn't, you say your publisher's like, well, I want to try to sell the movie rights. Okay, well, if you haven't sold the movie rights in 2 years, I'd like the rights to revert back to me. And so 2 years from the signing of the contract, the rights will come back if they haven't sold them. So that way you can acquire these rights back, but you can also give the rights to the publisher if you feel like the publisher is going to use those. If the publisher says, well, we want to get into audiobooks or we want to get into movies, and you want to feel like, yeah, I don't know anything about it, let's let them try, but you don't have confidence they're going to get anything done, you can actually try to get a sunset clause in. I've called it sunset clause before to people and they're like, huh? So you just need to write the clause and say, I'd like my rights to revert back to me 18 months after the release of the manuscript if you have not put a audiobook version out.
Yep.
And then they're yours. And, if they put the audiobook version out, then great. You'll sell them and get paid.
It's money being left on the table, really, because I've seen contracts, you've seen contracts too, from some houses where they take everything. They want everything, but there's no expiration on them. So
everybody always wants everything.
For the life of it all,
I think movies, foreign rights, those are easy ones to get back. I don't really, very rarely do I let people have the, what's it called? My mind just went blank. I just had it in my head and then it's gone. The commercial rights. I don't let them have commercial rights and merchandise rights. We should keep those. There's no reason to give those unless it's a really big publisher.
About merch for a second. Yeah. I'm wearing my Hello Traveler.
This is actually important. You had to deal with this. Go ahead and tell them about this. Yeah.
Because my client has merch. And if for those of you who've been with us for a long time, you've heard us say this, that the book is part of the brand. Do your branding, build the audience. Well, she already had merch out before the contract was signed, which made it very easy for me to go in and say, hey, we're already doing merchandise. It can be part of this contract. And it was an easy thing to take out for her because we're already doing it. And so, which is great because she's building an audience that way. So yeah, merchandising, right. And that's one specifically I would put that sunset clause, the reversion rights on, because if they don't do it within really the first year and a half, they're never going to, unless the book has sold a ton, which means then they're going to do that kind of thing. But otherwise you wouldn't be able to have, literally, you would not be able to make like hoodies or shirts or any kind of swag, because technically you'd be violating the merchandise rights that for the book in perpetuity forever, depending on the life of the contract. Right. Yeah. So the merchandise rights, that was something to really look at and maybe start doing on your own. So you have like solid footing to feel like, no, I'm already doing this. I'm not going to give you a cut of it.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's important because that was a default in the contract you were working on was merchandising rights went to the publisher.
What was,
and so,
oh, sorry.
No, I mean, you're wearing proof of it. So like,
I know I bought it.
Hello Traveler is the brand. So
it is. She
that will be a cookbook that you can buy one day.
Hello Traveler. I love her so much. So yeah, so check out her merch store at the Copper Spoon on TikTok and Instagram. But shameless plug.
Why we're telling you this is these are important. Like, and more as publishers close, it's more likely that you're going to be dealing with publishers on your own, smaller publishers, especially hybrids. And, those are things you need to be aware of the contracts. Like we want to protect you. That's why we have Series Writer to help you not make these major mistakes because they can be catastrophic. For example, I have a client who I did not represent on some other projects and I can't do anything to help her at the moment. She's stuck. She has some books I'm shopping, but the books that she's had success on in the past are stuck with a publisher who went basically bankrupt, and the publisher will not give her the rights back. She's asked for the rights back. They gave her the rights to her story, but not the art. So you cannot move forward with a children's book with just a story when it's already been published because it didn't sell enough that publishers are really going to want to agree. It sold like tens of thousands of copies, but no one's really interested in picking it up. So she could take it, go do something with it at a smaller publisher. And I do have some publishers I think will be interesting, but she's got to have the art because the art's done and they could get it cheap. So the publisher's just ignoring every request for the last year. And so at that point, I can't do anything to on with this book. The book is stuck. The art's out there. There's already a version of it out there that the publisher still has the rights in perpetuity to sell. They set it up in their contract with this person so they can always sell the book as long as they have physical copies left, which they do. They will not sell the physical copies that they currently own at a discount to the author just to clear them out so the author can sell them. So the author's stuck there. And the rights were not reverted back to the illustrator because my author has contacted the illustrator, and the illustrator's like, I'm gonna try to get the rights back for my art, but the was a work for hire, so they don't have to give them the rights back. The ownership is to the publisher, and the publisher's not willing to sell, for whatever reason, not willing to sell the images to the author. And if they do, they're going to sell them at like $4,000. I know who the publisher is, so they're stuck. And so that's some of the dangers of, had the rights reverted, had there been a clause in there that the illustrations were able to be purchased at the end of the contract for a fee, which like HarperCollins has that in there now. When I do deals with HarperCollins, they had an extra $10,000 in the, or $15,000 in the contract. They say you're getting like 25,000 instead of 10,000, but it's really, they're just giving you the art that they probably didn't pay $15,000 for. They probably paid $6,000. So it makes you feel good, makes you feel like you get value, but ultimately at the end of the contract that you get the rights to the art. So you could go self-publish it or take it to another publisher and publish it. But outside of HarperCollins, it's not really a default in anybody now. And that's so something you need to be aware of.
I think too, when you're looking at your contracts, because I agree with you, I think that we're seeing this shift in publishing too, where it's going to be especially with as many hybrids as there are, and the ability to self-publish. I think we're seeing a divide. You can correct me, but here's what I think that I'm seeing. I think that we're kind of losing the mid-size houses. I think that we're going to have smaller houses, and we're going to have the big houses.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mid ones they're in this weird spot where they either need to become part of one of the bigs because they're all acquiring, or what we're seeing is they're letting go of people, which is going to then turn them into a small house.
Right.
Which means that it's going to be harder to get traditionally published with an agent with a big, because there's less houses to send to, because they're all incorporated, like
right
houses. Okay, so something that has kind of been going around is, well, around the agenting side of things, is publishers taking too long to respond to agents. And so they sent us, the ALA that we're part of, they sent out this survey and like, how long does it take? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Simon & Schuster has responded to this, and this is in a nutshell. So this is kind of me telling you what I've seen, and like, you might read an article like, Bethany said something wrong, and if I do, I'm sorry about that. But basically, they're moving to a 3-week turnaround response time for agents. So if I send a Simon & Schuster editor a submission for my client, then in 3 weeks I can follow up, or I should have heard something, or I believe I can tell them that I'm going to send it to another editor at the house, so that we're moving faster through us all waiting on these things. So the thing is, there's mixed feelings on this, and I'm going to go back. They did a live call on Monday with agents, and I didn't get to see it, so I'm waiting for the replay to come out so I can listen to it myself. But based on just some of the chatter within our agent group, here's what I think. I think that it's going to be great to have a 3-week turnaround response time. But what I think is going to happen is, because editors are already so busy, that it doesn't mean that they're going to have more time to really look at the projects. I think that they're going to have to make quicker decisions.
Faster nose, yeah. Faster nose.
Yeah, it's going to be faster nose. They don't get to take as much time with the manuscript as they would have wanted. And I don't know, but I don't think that I don't know that they're hiring anyone else to come in and take some workload off of these editors that are already slammed. So they're just kind of putting more pressure on them, which I don't think is going to be good for the author.
No, they're not hiring anybody else. There's no way.
Of course they're not. So, but I want to say in case that they are, maybe they are.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. The
anyway,
one publisher listening.
yeah. So like, and then the other thing within the Simon and Schuster house is they won't, this was another thing they were talking about, is that they won't auction against each other. So in this scenario, as I'm thinking it through, if I send it to an editor and they don't get back to me in 3 weeks, but then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to, hey, I'm sending this to somebody else because I'm going to do it so fast. And then I move to another editor, or if I'm at another imprint within their system, they're not going to auction against each other. So if they're underneath the Simon and Schuster brand, and I've got two publishers who want it, I can't start an auction with them to bid against each other. So like, one thing you want to do as an agent is you want to, that's the ideal scenario, is to have so many publishers interested that you start this auction where it can go to the best deal. But you can't, some publishers, some big 5 publishers don't let you do that within certain imprints, or within some editors, they'll say within a smaller sect of imprints, they'll say, hey, because these houses buy so many companies, they'll say don't send to anyone else within this group, like with Holiday House. Like, it's don't send any of the imprints if you're good. Like, I can't send to Holiday House and Neil Porter. I need to choose one. And then the question is, am I even allowed to then send it to Holiday House after I send it to Neil Porter? Because technically it was a no. So is it a no for all? And that could depend upon the editor and the relationship you have with them. Like whether
oftentimes it is depending on the company.
So this is what a lot of the agenting side is kind of managing who to send and when and how. So that's kind of been all this conversation around Simon and Schuster. So I think we're going to see more houses respond to this, but I'm not really sure it's going to be a super good thing. Although we will get.
No, it's going to be a no for Penguin and a no for Penguin.
No. So
yeah, all 50 imprints, all 70 imprints. That's how it used to be. 20 years ago, you get a no from Penguin, it's a no for every imprint. I don't which means pick the right publisher out of the gate. We talked about this last time. You got to pick the right publisher to submit to. Don't submit to everybody. Pick the right editor is perfect for, and the right editor. More research is better. I mean, this is what we're doing now. I've been informing my clients that I've been meeting with. Like, I'm only pitching live to people and saying, hey, you want this? I have this. I think it's a good fit. And because if not, you're just throwing stuff against the wall to people who are slammed right now. And instead of just really custom fitting the pitches to the people that are already looking for them. And that is the best method right now. Like, if you're still doing the shotgun approach, you're still sending to 5 or 6 people, then I haven't done that in a while, because it stopped working when everybody started getting fired and departments got small, and they don't want that. So it's better to meet someone in person, pitch it, and know that they're the right person to pitch it to. And so we're having much more success. We're selling books. So, we tell you all these scary things about contracts because we're doing contracts. So like, books are selling. We're working on contracts. Bethany's been working on contracts. I've been doing a bunch of contracts this year. It's just, we've been trying to prepare you that what's selling is platform. People who have book sales on record with their previous books, and people who have platform. And you've got to build into those things. And so that's what I'll talk about when we get to romance and book sales. But
I just have a short little thing about middle grade.
Yeah, go for it.
So, and this is real. Oh, my final thought on this was, it seems from the agents who were in on the call that it kind of had mixed reviews, that it was not necessarily. Kyle, I hope you listen to it too. I'll make sure if you don't see the email.
Yeah, send it to me.
Because I don't think that it went the way they thought it was going to go, because I think a lot of agents had a lot of questions about certain things. So I'm excited to kind of like hear the tone in the questions and answers. But with regards to Simon and Schuster in middle grade, I believe what they're saying is that right now, when it comes to the middle grade space, they're looking for lower middle grade 8 and 9. And that almost to me is that's like a little bit too,
which is illustrated. A lot of it's got illustrations. Yeah.
So they're looking,
which when people are like, I want to write that young middle grade, if you don't draw, it's really hard, because you got to come with illustrations.
So the 8 and 9 age group, shorter books, middle grade, is what Simon and Schuster is looking for right now. So I hope that's a nugget for any of you guys wanting to go into that space. All right, to romance.
Oh, so I mean, this is not a long time. We'll finish with this. It's short, but the difference in romance between traditionally published books and self-published books, what I'm seeing is that in the self-publishing space, your goal is to meet a need that does not exist in the traditionally published space, because there's a ton of, and this is really in any fiction right now, there is a ton of books in the traditional space in every genre. So when you write a similar book, and you pitch it to publishers and they're not interested. They're not interested because there's already that market's already taken. So when you go self-publish it, you have to find a place for your book on a shelf that's already full for people. So what I'm seeing in the success of authors is publishing things that are not on the shelf, that publishers haven't taken the risk for. And I'm seeing success with this. That means, like, what does that look like? Practical. Let's talk about romance. I'll give you a practical. Gossip Girl is done, right? And I mean, if you watch Gossip Girl, if you don't know what watch Gossip Girl, then you may not get the analogy. So Gossip Girl's been done. There's books like Gossip Girl out there. But what's not been done is Gossip Girl for the very, very rich, like uber rich, like mega yacht rich. So I've seen an author, not gonna, because I've seen a couple of them, I'm not gonna get into it, but come out with like that next generation kind of young adult, new adult, huh?
Like billionaire?
Like, yeah, like mega rich. Like, I live in a boarding school. My parents are super wealthy.
The Gossip Girl, they're rich.
Yeah, but this is like even richer, like mega rich, over the top rich. It's like beyond, taking it to a whole nother level that has not been done. But I'm seeing the success in this. I'm seeing people have, as self-published authors, having success. I can tell you one of the books I'm thinking about. Recent one is the Eastbrook Academy series. I've not read them, so I'm not endorsing them. I just follow the industry.
I'm just gonna write it down. Say the name again.
The Eastbrook Academy series.
But you are not putting your Kyle Young stamp of
approval. No stamp of approval. I don't know anything about it. I do know it's becoming a movie, though, like a Netflix show, which is always, that's how I find out about these things.
Well, that means there's gonna be more.
I start working. Okay, like what is the book about? How do they sell it? And so what the author has said is, okay, I tried to submit this to publishers. They didn't have room for it. They weren't interested for whatever reason. I know I can write, so I did my thing. I did it my way, and I looked at kind of the hole in the market, and I went kind of found a place. So it really, I think the author kind of went for Gossip Girl, just over the top, way over the top, mega yacht over the top. So, and when that happens, there's a place. There are readers for that. And you just got to find them. Once you find them and they start reading it and they love it, you connect with them. And then you continue to put out books and books and books. And what happened, this author, self-published author, sold millions of copies of their books now. So it's kind of a rags to riches thing. Like, you can do this on your own. You can do it with a traditional publishers. There's all kinds of ways to have success in this industry right now, especially that there's no better time in this industry to have success, I think, than now, because of you don't have to pay to advertise anymore. Social media is free. So people are hitting it big as self-published authors, as traditionally published authors, regularly right now. I mean, I keep seeing stories where a self-published author just took off, a traditional author just took off. And it's always because they're marketing and promoting their books on it's always different platforms. Sometimes it's Instagram, sometimes it's TikTok, sometimes it's, YouTube. It is there's no like one method. You just got to go out and do a method and find your readers. And then, if you're here at Serious Writer, you've been working on your craft. You're most likely a really good writer. You just got to go out and find your audience. And we're here to tell you that people are having success. People like you and me are doing this and they're making it work. And so, yeah, maybe you haven't hit it yet, but keep going. Because I'm seeing people all the time who say, like, I was at the end of my rope. I was about ready to give up, and boom, things took off. Like, that happens quite a bit. I've seen that article so many times.
Yeah.
Right. So and I've seen it in the traditional sense, and I've seen it in the self-published sense. I've not really seen many of those in hybrid, to be honest with you. I actually haven't seen any hybrid articles about, I have a hybrid published book and it's taken off. I don't see that. Not that it doesn't happen. I don't see those articles.
Why? Because there's supposed to be more distribution with the hybrid model. Plus, you've paid for professional cover and editing and all that. So you think those would be the ones that
I know why. I think I know why.
On the recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your publisher hates you. No, I'm just kidding. The real reason, yeah, clip that out. The real reason is, if you're self-published, it can take off because you're so passionate about it, you're not going to fail. If you're traditionally published, you can be passionate, but your publisher can have all the right connections, tools, whatever, to make you successful. In the hybrid space, you can't really do, like, you're the one doing all the marketing. You don't have the help of a marketing team, and they're not really going to put your book out there. So, like, you don't care as much because you don't have enough, you're not making enough money on the other end of it. And like they don't have the connection. So you're missing what the traditional publisher brings to the table. And you're missing what the self-published author brings to the table. You get a little bit of both, but not enough of both to be ultimately successful. So I think that's why the hybrid authors, I don't see people saying, I was hybrid published and I sold millions of copies. I think because there's this disconnect with what a hybrid publisher does. I think people who are speakers, hybrid publishing is great for because they're already going to go sell books to the back of the room. They're going to make extra income. I think it's a great source of making extra income for people who already have a income producing audience that just need to serve products to. Outside of that, I think you're better off going self-publishing well or keeping with the traditional route. That I think those are the best two options for most authors. 99, maybe 98%. So
I wonder too, if just thinking along what you said, if there is this feeling because you're paying for the services that you're expecting the hybrid publisher to act like a traditional publisher, that the disconnect there is that
you think they're going to do more than they're going to do, and so you
the
don't.
Hybrid, there's no incentive to go above and beyond, where on the traditional side, they've put up all the cost.
Right.
And they have to recoup that money. So there is
Yep.
They've got what is it called? Like when you, it's not iron in the fire, but that's the only thing that's coming to mind. They've got a piece of the pie, but that's also not it. Help me out in the chat. They've got
skin in the game.
Skin in the game. That's
what
it.
Is the idiom? We're gonna play a game. Help Bethany remember
Man.
today. Man. Yeah, they got skin in the game, and I mean it really is. I think the same problem is with small publishers. It's just similar to the hybrid issue. They don't really have any skin in the game. They're not putting a marketing budget together. If your publisher doesn't have a marketing budget, like an actual, like, a marketing budget that's going to go and pay for ads to sell hundreds of books. So it's generally, most of these publishers are investing thousands of dollars into marketing for a book. That's the kind of traditional pub. When I say traditional, I'm talking about a publisher who can distribute books in the bookstores and they have a marketing budget for your book. That's substantial enough. They're going to try to get sales. If that's not the route you're going, it's fine to try to get that. You still can get that. You can still find those deals. They're out there. We're signing them. You just need to have the certain mechanics right now. You need the platform, you need the book sales, you just might need to be writing the perfect thing and the perfect trend at the moment. That's a way to kind of not have platform. But other than that, I think self-publishing well is your better option. I just do. I mean, we live and breathe this. Bethany and I, we talk publishing every single time we speak. So we live and breathe this. We see it. I would rather see people self-publish well and go sell 1,000, 2,000 books and realize all that money that they're going to make versus go do 500 books with a hybrid publisher or a small publisher and just be miserable that they did not make any money.
That's it. So, I remembered what I was going to say about when I lost my mind earlier.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the publisher that's ghosting me. One of the things that I saw in the contract was that they were offering edits. I think you probably remember me talking to you about this, but it didn't say what kind of edits. And I don't know that every contract is like this, but the contract was so short that I felt like we needed more information. And I've been with publishers where they say they're going to do edits, but then basically what that meant is we're going to send you the galley, the PDF once we've got it all laid out, and you
can do a copy edit, yeah. And
you can make the proofreading that needs to happen, and no one else is going to touch it. So that was an eye opener.
I mean, I've had to just tell some others, hey, I got to release that series. Go self-publish it. Don't go with small publishers. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But like, I'd rather see them go be successful with it because that just helps me on the other books that I'm still representing for them. Hey, go be successful here.
Yeah.
I'll give you advice and tell you what I know about the industry. Go sell those books. Because then if you go sell a bunch, I'll go back to the other publishers and say, hey, look what we've got. We can send to you and look what my author's doing and how they can promote. And I always just hope that author's going to go out and just really just push and sell books because it's just going to help me sell other stuff for them. And it really is. That's the nature of the market right now, especially in the CBA. That is the CBA. In the traditional market, it still operates very traditional. In the general market, it's still like, you can still have publishers that have the network to get your book be successful. But even the biggest books right now were through Book Talk. So it wasn't the publisher did nothing. The book hit social media and the publisher just got lucky. So
I will say, as we close this out, and y'all have been great because we're at 101. I've had more difficulty with contracts on the Christian market side than on the traditional market side. 2-to-1.
Oh yeah.
It's something to think about. Because at the end of the day, this is a business.
Yep.
Final thought, Kyle.
End on that note.
I know, because I told you, I was like, I don't even know if I can get on today. I'm so
Bethany's fired up
about lots of things.
Yeah, people are like, wow, that was interesting, Bethany.
Not encouraging at all.
Yeah. Bethany's got skin in the game. So
why don't you close
everyone, I will be back in at the end of the month with you. I'll be revved up. I have a lot to say. I'll be spending a week with authors in Tuscany, looking at their projects, talking with them, encouraging them, helping them with their books, talking about marketing. I guess spend a week with Bethany's mom, which is amazing. So that'd be fun. And so we'll be back. And then I'm actually coming straight back and going to a conference. I have to go to a general market conference. I'm speaking at it. They contacted me and was like, hey, we need your class. Like, your class has been highly requested. So will you do it? And I'm like, I'm coming. I'm like getting back from a 2-week trip. I'm exhausted. It's like, but everybody wants you to do it. So I'm like, so I got to go to Detroit and teach. So it'll be fun. It's a general market conference. I'm excited about it. But
are you going to be back with us on the 29th or when
I'll be back that last Wednesday of April.
Okay.
I think what is the last Wednesday of April? I don't know.
So here's what we've
got. I'll be the first Wednesday of May. So.
Oh, so you have me 1, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah. All right. So here's the schedule coming up. We're going to talk about threads. We're going to talk about Substack. We're going to do a lot of in-depth things. So anything you've got questions on, or if you're like, how do I build my audience? How do I do all these things? Send those in to us, because I will add that into some of these teachings. And then I'm hoping to have a special guest on for our podcast this month, but I don't want to say anything until I know for sure. But I've sent out some feelers, so we'll see what happens with that. But thanks for being with us so long, and you guys have been great. And see you next week.
See you in May. Have fun next week with Bethany. All right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.